Hello, everyone. My name is Roger Lee, and I am proud to moderate our panel discussion today, LGBTQA Entrepreneurs in Action, and this is presented by the Charles D. Close School of Entrepreneurship at Drexel University. I am honored and privileged to have this conversation with you all. Although it's not Pride Month, we're starting early. It's 2021, and we really do want to celebrate all that entrepreneurship is and all the people that make up our ecosystem. So again, thank you all for being a part of this conversation. It's going to be a great chance to learn and to ask some questions of our amazing panelists who are here. And speaking of panelists, I'm ready to introduce both of them. We have Mr. Peter Danzig here, who I'm great friends with. We've known each other for a few years now. Peter was a singer in my dance company show. But outside of singing, Peter is an actor, he's a therapist, he's an entrepreneur, and he's also the newly appointed director of equity training. Just so many things he's doing with the mayor's office. I'm gonna let him go into his new role because it's really amazing. He just started in January, so congratulations to you, Peter. And we also have Jay Staten, who's here, and you can see his photo there is sharp. Hey, Jay. Thanks for being here.
Hello.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm happy you're here, Jay. And Jay and I, we met doing a entrepreneurship sort of a dance event. Right, so we were judging, but then kind of speaking about entrepreneurship as well to the students who were there, and it was a great experience. And Jay is a serial entrepreneur. He has a few dancers under one brand, and he's going to talk to you about that today. And as you guys know, I'm a program manager and adjunct professor here at the Charles D. Close School of Entrepreneurship. So welcome. So guys, we're going to jump right in. I'm going to ask each of you to weigh in on this. But we'll start with Peter. If you could just let our audience here know who you are and briefly talk about your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, sure. Well, hi, everyone. So my name's Peter Danzig. I use they, them, and he pronouns. And, entrepreneurship and entrepreneur is just such a word that I always struggle with, because for me, it's just about making opportunities and making space for my voice at the table sometimes. The journey, actually, I had started in the arts. I had gotten a master's in theater and acting. And once I left as an actor, I was recognizing that there was all of this inequity available to artists in terms of mental health supports, physical health supports, job security, diverse equity inclusion initiatives. So I thought, what would happen if I took an effort or a pause in my career to see what that looked like. And I founded in 2014 a nonprofit called Theatrical Trainer that provided biopsychosocial supports to artists, so connecting them to physical therapists, personal trainers, mental health clinicians, and we partner with larger organizations throughout the country to inform research on how we can take care of the most important, what I view as one of the most important aspects of society as artists. And so at that point, I had never thought of myself as an entrepreneur. I just thought of myself more as a social worker, somebody giving support and just giving voice. But then through that, started writing, contributing to local organizations and being a panel speaker. And so in terms of entrepreneurship, have kind of created a brand around my name that speaks to equity initiatives and just promoting social justice, many times for queer populations and their presence. So that's kind of my journey and where it started. And right now, while I'm sure we'll talk about that, I'm also working in the city as the director of training and capacity building for the mayor's office of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So taking all those entrepreneurship skills that I have learned and trying to bring them to the social work landscape, and also private practice therapists. So lots to do.
So amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Peter. What I love most about your journey too is that again, you started in the arts and you found new lanes and you're still using artistic skills, but you're really reaching such a broad population now, so it's pretty incredible.
Thanks, Roger. It's fun. I love my jobs.
I love it. And Jay, let folks know all about you and your entrepreneurial journey.
Well, first I have to start with the disclaimer that I live in New York. So quiet is a state of mind. So bear with me when you hear things in the background. My entrepreneurship journey started at about 14 years old. I started first as a concert dancer. I danced for years for Donald Byrd, Flodanko. We had jobs on Broadway, commercial TV. And I say it started at 14 because I started teaching at 14. And anybody who knows about teaching as a dancer, you're a freelance artist from the gate. And if you're freelancing, you're technically an entrepreneur. So, you know, my entrepreneurship started then. So I started teaching at 14. And as I never stopped, not through high school, not through college, through my dance career. And I started being grabbed by a bunch of things. So I'm really a philanthropist, but I don't have any money. So I have to, you know, do things like, you know, have my business. I started a brand by Jay Staten, which is basically a brand to foster community and to bring dance to um, uh, underserved and underprivileged kids in the DC area. So I have a dance consulting firm. It's more performing arts consulting, and it's kind of new. I'm like helping choreographers rebrand themselves. I'm helping studios rebrand themselves. I'm helping them look at their numbers and switch them around. And I have clients in Chicago and St. Louis and DC and some in New York. A lot of my friends are using my services that I used to dance with. I also have a children's dance company called Movement X, which is actually a social political dance company. All their dances and everything that they do have something to do about what's going on socially, what's going on politically. It's mainly a vessel to teach the kids about themselves and about things around them and about who controls them. Are they really in control of themselves, and how to make choices and how to verbalize things that they don't like in a way through their art. I also own an event called Bring It to the Marley, which is in its 8th season now. Bring It to the Marley is a children's showcase where kids come from all over the country. Last year I had 13 schools, about 405 kids participate. And I gave out about $60,000 in dance scholarships. I've done that daily since 2012, 8 years, you guys, you can do the math. I also do a lot of college consulting for kids going from college, high school to BFA programs. I teach a dance on film class at Alabama State. I sit on the dance advisory board at Marymount Manhattan College, and I still dance for Camille A. Brown and Dancers. I live in New York. Sometimes I live in DC. Sometimes I live in a bag, but that's how it goes. Yeah, I think that's just about everything.
I'm just so proud of you, Jay. I mean, you've done so much in dance, but beyond dance as well. And I love how you're really using your gifts to give back to children in particular. You're really giving them performance opportunities that we just didn't have coming up. And I love that you're doing that for them. And again, you know, work with Go, you've just done so much. So you're very inspiring.
Thank you. I mean, I think, sorry, am I supposed to talk? I think the thing, honestly, is I get these titles, but what I really am trying to do is foster community and introduce the word choice to kids so they understand that they don't have to do anything. If you have choices, then, you know, the world is a little different. And it just kind of filtered itself into being its own business. And, you know, I got to pay the rent. So I had to, like, you know, make it work. So.
Wow. That's incredible. Yes, I love starting off with that question just so that the audience can get to know you guys and all the amazing things that you're doing. So now I want to go into a little bit more of a philosophical part in this conversation. And I want to know, starting with Peter, what do you think are the unique challenges that LGBTQA plus entrepreneurs face? Because we do have a unique set. So I want to see what you think of that.
Yeah, you know, I really feel what Jay said was important, this aspect of fostering community, because I think that may be kind of a place where we both intersect. For me, which may be different, is that for me, it's important to provide LGBTQIA plus people the opportunities that I just didn't see available, you know, and one of the things I think is a challenge is visibility. And where I think that this is kind of, it gets controversial is, what do you want to lead with, right? Are you going to use a sense of self? Am I going to use my sense of self and my being and my space and my emotional landscape to create opportunities for my businesses and my brands and others? Or are we going to try and talk about the inequality that others experience and use their experiences? And I think it always comes down to the audience. You know, as an entrepreneur, I really think about when I'm branding something, an initiative, or if I'm branding something out of myself that is for Theatrical Trainer, who am I speaking for? Am I speaking for myself? Am I speaking for others? You know, and I think that the one thing that LGBTQA plus people really struggle with is that there's a lot of people in business who speak for us. And sometimes we aren't asking for that. And, you know, one of the things I always say is if I want to speak from my experience, I promise you, I will speak from my experience, but you don't have to speak for me. And I think that it is crucial for queer people to also sometimes not have to be queer in a space, that our initiative or our idea is unique in and of itself outside of, you know, our gender or our sexual orientation, you know? So I think that for me, it's really, it's hard. It's actually very difficult, especially business right now. And within the last couple of years, it's been a struggle to think about where you want to position yourself and how much of ourselves we want to make available to our businesses. Because when I brand something that is a part of me, I'm emotionally attached. And I think that's something that queer people struggle with. There's a marginalization there. There's a lack of access sometimes. And then sometimes the only access that will be available will be grants or things that are for our population. So that's, you know, that's kind of like my opinion on the difficulty is what audience are you doing? Do we want to keep presenting ourselves this way? Is there a better way, a different way?
There's so much in there that I actually really relate to, but I have to say, being able to speak for ourselves is major, and we really don't get to. And when we do, it's kind of this whole expectation that we represent the whole entire community, and we're not a monolith, right? As many colors and many shades, right? And all very, very different. We have our own philosophies and backgrounds and origins. So it's really important that you say, hey, this is our perspective, right? But this is not the perspective that everybody has within this community. So totally agree with you there. Also, it's about how do we brand ourselves, right? How are we represented? Because a lot of times people do want to see the rainbow and all the fun and the glitz and the glamour, but sometimes, like you said, you just want to come in as you, and it's not about a label, right? It's not about the title, but it's like, hey, this is my idea, and this is what I can bring to the table. And sometimes it's like, oh, but we don't want that. Show us the other side, right? Show us the stereotype. So I think that's
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, the watering down of an initiative, I find that that's a challenge when I present something like there's no rainbows here. Why are I'm like, this is just a business proposal for all people, you know? Right. So I think it is a struggle. Yeah.
I see your book coming, Beyond the Rainbow, right?
Yes, actually, there is one that is in the works. Actually, yes, it's going to be titled "It Takes a Village to Raise a Unicorn." So I'm working.
I love that. Oh, and Jay, weigh in here. How do you feel about this?
So funny you said it takes a village. That's like one of my taglines. But personally, we were talking about this earlier today. I'm gay, but I don't label myself as LGBTQ. So I one, because I work with kids, and I don't deem it like it's necessary to talk about my sexual preference with them. I only think this sexual preference conversation is important when it's time to do one thing, and you can fill in the blanks on your own. So I really can't talk about the problems faced, that I have faced. I think that just saying that I'm a dancer and I own a dance business comes with its own, oh no, it comes with its own list of issues. And usually people just assume that I'm gay, anyway, but I'm also Black, and that bleeds first. So LGBTQ or any other label, people generally don't see past the Black part. So, I have a different struggle, and plus most of my businesses, not only does it foster communities, but it works a lot around women and little girls, which also comes with its own set of issues. Especially when people take a look into the business and see that I'm a man running this business with a lot of women surrounded by me. But I mean, I was raised by a strong woman, and I always have the mentality, if you don't know what you're doing in a dance class, look at the girl in front of you. I'm sure she knows. So, that is where I am. I think I run from the label just because I'm already in so many instances, I'm already not allowed to inform people about who I am because I'm already Black. It already comes with a lot of, stereotypes. So adding other things to it, just doesn't seem, just, I don't think people even see past that. So, and also I grew up with a brother that was disabled. Here I am, this Black ballet dancer. It's all these things that go around with people filling in blanks all the time. So I will give you the least amount of information with the letters behind my name so that I can inform you about who I am, and you don't take the rest and write the story for yourself.
Amen. And I love hearing that unique perspective on this because, again, so many times we're expected to bear all and tell every single thing about ourselves. And I love that you're like, hey, let my work speak for itself, right? I love that.
Yeah. I mean, when I saw the flyer that said LGBTQ, a piece of me was like, and not because I'm ashamed, not because I want to run from it, but it's private to me. Like, I don't think, heterosexual people don't put whatever their letters are on front of their things. And so it just, and I'm not running a brothel or a strip club. So I don't think that those things are necessary. And when you're dealing with kids, because I am gay, when you add those letters and things to it, then I got to start answering questions like, are you on the sex offenders list? You don't have any little boys. Is there a reason? Are you allowed to work? It's just so many things that come with it that I choose to steer away from it. And I really think it is private.
I really respect that perspective for sure. And I think that kind of does speak to a bigger issue there too, is so many assumptions are just made in general, right? And especially around the community. So yeah, it's something that we always have to contend with, where some other folks who are entrepreneurs, they'll never have to be asked those hard questions. And they'll never be looked at in that light. And like you said, there's intersectionality here, right? Again, we're talking about being, Black and being a man, and women are facing this too, and there's so many intersectionalities, right? It's not just sexuality. So.
I honestly can't even remember when anybody even asked me if I was gay. And not to say that I'm living this life I have no problem with, but that's how much of me it's not, I should say.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. So guys, this brings me to my last question. So of course I'll ask both of you, and Peter, if you could kind of give your perspective on this. What do you think are some things that the business/entrepreneurship community could do to support the LGBTQA community? Because the community has some serious buying power, right? We support a lot of companies. So what is it that those companies could do to actually support us?
Yeah, it's funny that Jay mentions not bringing that in. I lead with it not through sexual orientation, but gender for me is crucially important because I identify as genderqueer. So for me, there's a lot there that comes with those labels. And I think the ways that people can really support LGBTQIA plus businesses is to, I wish it didn't, but it just, the things that Jay has mentioned are important. They're political. It starts at a bias level. I think that normalizing that we are just people who have entrepreneurial skills just like anybody else has, we have original, innovative ideas, is where to start. And I think that you don't necessarily have to ask somebody's gender orientation, but you can look to what they're saying to the world and see how you can interpret it and bring those voices to the table. I think it's really important. Also, though, if somebody does, like for me, some of my branding does have to do with gender, and I want that to be forward for me. And I want a trauma-informed lens from my experience to be part of my whole branding and my narrative. And I think that to understand that people with different intersections of their lives come with other systemic hardships. And if you can also advocate ahead, so we don't have to come to the table and break down those stigmas and then present our business idea or our idea to the world, where we can just be free to walk into a room and just present without carrying all these things that I think Jay and I are both mentioning into the room. To imagine just like walking in and presenting your idea and pitch is the thing that you can do. And so I think that you have to get to know your audience, but I think you also have to get to know your entrepreneurs. Ask us what we're comfortable with. Ask what emotional, kind of boundaries we have around our branding and business, and don't assume, and I think that's the most important thing that you can do. And also, supporting just bringing people in. The fact that you have different voices here, Roger, Jay and I have very different perspectives, but we both occupy space to allow us to occupy space and to have different opinions and to not umbrella us under, some preconceived notions is really helpful. So that's my qualm if you're going to help, and obviously money. Right. So if you have lots of money, I always say, where's your diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives in general for all populations? And if those voices aren't around you giving you advice, then you're probably kind of narrow in your scope. So.
Amen to that. Yeah, and I'm really, really honored to have different voices and to have you guys represented. And that was kind of my goal in creating this whole diversity, equity, inclusion series, is really talking about the totality of these groups, right? And really breaking down barriers and stereotypes. And I'll say too, from my experience, a lot of people do want to help, but they don't know how to, and they're so fearful of saying the wrong thing, applying the wrong label, or even labeling it all. And so they don't do anything at all, right? They get analysis paralysis, so they're so scared they don't help us. So I guess that's as simple as just helping, asking like, hey, how can I be of service to you all? Yeah. But Jay, what do you think about this?
I think I have the challenge of being Black in this. So my first thing becomes, I have to fight through the systemic, issues that Black entrepreneurs, or just Black men in general, I'm going to the bank and not getting pulled out of the car by a police officer is one of the issues. So you don't even get a chance to see my sexuality or judge that, because I think that my fight first is being Black, especially being out with the kids, asking me things like, I judge for Youth American Grand Prix, which is a ballet competition. Am I the hip hop judge? Well, there's no hip hop judge. There's no hip hop in this competition. Or want to know what my relationship is to some of the girls. Or, when I do pop up, so can you go get the owner? I think I won't even say money. I won't even say, I would say an imagination first. I think that's the biggest problem. I think that like me being seen a certain way and what people think that people that look like me, what we were supposed to be doing, is generally where I have to pull out my credentials to show you that I'm qualified. I think the way that anybody can help is just by hiring people that are qualified and really being blind to who you hire and who you have around. And one of the biggest things about most of my business is that like showing young kids people that look like them. If you don't show people $1 million, then they won't think $1 million is there to earn. So just letting them be conscious of what's there. Also, I think dance is cultural. So learning dance around bodies that look like theirs and being able to say, where is it? Just giving people space to do what they do, I think is the biggest, one of the biggest issues. I'm sorry to take you to the Black Lives Matter thing, but that's really my issue. That's really the problem for me. Being judged before I'm looked at, or being judged before I'm spoken to, being judged before you see my talent or read my resume or go to my website or check out my kids. So I would love for the issue to be like, well, as a gay person, but that's not my issue. As a Black man, I have a whole line of issues that are different. And the other thing I want to say is like, I think instead of most people trying to relate to it, and I've given this analogy before, like you can tell me as much as you want to tell me about a menstrual cycle, I will never get it. I can understand it, I can empathize with it, but a tampon and a maxi pad are some things I just won't ever fully understand. I know that I have grown an empathy to it because I've seen people go through the pain, but I won't get it. And I'm not going to sit here and try to get it. And I think if you relay the arts the same way, if you relay being Black the same way, then it's something that you can empathize if you would like, but not fully be able to wrap your head around. I think the world will be a better place.
There's so much in there that, again, I can totally relate to. But you're right, it's not about trying to always put ourselves in somebody's shoes. Because people try and they're well-intended, but they'll never be able to. So instead of wasting that time, why can't we just trust the people to be the subject matter experts?
Yeah, but why try to put on my shoes? I look cute in them on my own. Like, I don't need, yes. I don't need any help. I don't need any help.
Hmm. Yeah, we just want to be known as who we are and like, hey, give us a chance to come in and show what we can do without
Yeah,
to fill in all those blanks. So
absolutely.
incredible. I have to thank both of you. Again, you have such unique perspectives, such amazing qualifications, and such big hearts for the work that you do. So again, everybody give a round of applause to Peter and Jay
Oh, thank
virtually.
you. Thank
Virtually,
you.
y'all get the standing ovation. This has been incredible. To everybody out there listening today, I hope that you took away some great things. I think the biggest being that the LGBTQA plus community is vast. It's large, it's wide, it's growing, and everybody's different. Everybody has their own thoughts and opinions and their own work, and we all have something powerful to contribute. So, as a community, all we ask is just to give us a chance, right? Let us kind of speak our truths and work with you because, again, this community has a lot to offer and just beyond money, right? We have huge purchasing power, but beyond that, we have a lot of intellect and passion and zeal to bring. So, like if you open the door a little bit, we'll kick it in, but give us the opportunity. Yeah, so again, I thank you all so much for this, and this concludes the formal portion of our presentation. So I will stop recording in one moment. After that, please feel free to stay for the wine and cheese as I talked about earlier, and just network with Jay, Peter, and myself. So thank you all so much. God bless you, and have a wonderful evening.